Daddy's got to pay the bills somehow. Speaking of paying the bills and bear suits, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, today is the day that you have long been waited for because you watched. So Click Stud has a dynamic mic setting there, I think, because you got so loud that your microphone was like, fuck this, yelling.
That's not fun away.
No, you're just like really loud. You're like really loud. You're like really loud.
Do it again.
Because you watch. Now you gotta whoosh it.
Whoosh.
Starcrash. Me, Mike Vanderpool, the whoosh from Michael Klink, and the heavy sire, Dr. Love, L-U-V, Alan Barris here today to talk about the 2006 masterpiece, The Wicker Man, starring the one and only Nick Cage. In this season of Nick Caginess. You like that? Caginess? Get it? So yes, I picked this movie. No, I did not pick this movie. Who picked this movie?
I picked this movie because apparently I'm even more of a masochist than I thought.
If masochist means a doer of good things, yes.
Well, it can, I guess. But anyway.
So, Alan, tell us a story. Why did you pick this film?
Because I hated it from the first moment I saw it, and I'd forgotten how much the Riff Tracks version makes it better because they absolutely love mocking this movie. 3 lines have become absolute, like, show up in almost every Riff Tracks episode, it seems. It's either, what's in the bag? A shark or something? Yeah, let's see. It's that one. How to get bird, how to get bird, how to get bird, how to get bird. And of course, the aforementioned not the bees.
Yes. And Alan, you are going to have to work on your Nick Cage impression if you're going to do more quoting of Nick Cage this season.
Well, I have such contempt for him in this movie that I am perfectly okay with my bad accent.
Before we get into the contempt and angst and anger and confusion that is this film, we are here today because one night I started watching Starcrash. 10 minutes in, said, what the Michael Klink is this? Called him up. We watched it together. Alan Barris got involved, and here we are today on this wonderful journey of WTF moments, quotes, question marks, queries, because we watched Starcrash.
Whoosh.
Thank you. 2006 Wicker Man is a... it's not a... Well, is it a remake?
It's a remake of the 1973 British Wicker Man. And it was apparently directly inspired by it through an unexpected vector, which I had missed the first time through, but unfortunately takes on a certain level of extra symbolism at this point in history. We'll come back to that. But yes, this is a remake of that 1973 movie, which is amazing and is one of the great horror movies when it comes right down to it. It's a beloved cult film, and it is one of the 3 main, what they call folk horror movies. And there's a really great documentary about them that I just recently watched that Jess and I were part of the Kickstarter for. It's amazing.
Very nice.
Fun fact, the original didn't have bees.
The original did not have bees.
So we do a lot of things here, WTF moments, quotes, yada, yada. This movie, for me, set the record for the fastest WTF.
Yep.
So even before I started watching it, before I pressed play, I watched this on Amazon, and it was $5.99 to rent. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yep, right from the beginning.
Nick's got to get his money, yo.
$5.99 to rent, $10.99 to buy, and my dumbass still rented it. And I did not see the 1973 version. I wanted to, but I fell asleep 3 times watching this and never got to around.
You know that timeline we've been or that season we've been talking about doing like a grab bag kind of thing? It might be a good place to do there when we eventually get to it at some point in the far distant future that we probably won't get to.
I'll put the Wicker Man 1973 Christopher Lee version in the grab bag right now. Hold on, sound effects.
A future grab bag that we won't get to. Yeah.
Maybe they'll tackle it in another timeline. Speaking of timelines, Klink,
There are no other timelines.
No, I have a challenge for you, Clink.
Okay.
I can make a connection from this film to Back to the Future.
Me too.
Fuck.
Is it when he wakes up with no pants on next to a woman talking to him about stuff?
Kind of.
Was it his mom in this case?
It was. It was that this film has incest too. That was actually what.
Anyways,
Go ahead and argue. Then you'll just prove it right. Yes. I did some YouTubing prior to this, and there's an Iron Maiden song called "The Wicker Man." Did you know that?
Yeah.
And
No.
it's horrible. Both of these movies.
You will not speak ill of Iron Maiden. Continue.
Listen, never mind. Both of these movies, though, the 73 and the 2006, are based off of a book called The Ritual or Rituals. Have you read that?
I think it's The Ritual, and I haven't.
Right.
But now that I saw that in prepping for this, and I'm like, okay, I probably should read that at some point.
I think we need to talk about the dialogue and the way that the rhythm of the dialogue kind of just comes out and is in spurts. It's just slow, really slow. It's just awkward.
Yes, it is awkward. The entire movie feels awkward until the last 20 minutes, where it just explodes in a chaos of awfulness.
It's a Nick Cage-gasm is how I'm going to refer to it.
Yeah.
Before we come, can we preheat the oven a little bit? What is this movie about?
All right. So Officer Edward Malis. I'm just going to let that sit there for a second. Edward Malis, which is not the name of the cop from the original movie, by the way. So Edward Malis is out on patrol, being a motorcycle cop, not looking as good as Mel Gibson, but anyway.
I was going to say Punch, but okay.
Yeah, he's out there patrolling, and he saves a doll that has been thrown out of a car by the world's worst child. And he catches up to them and returns the dolly to its owner, who promptly throws it back out the window because she's totally a lovable scamp. And when he turns around after picking up the animal, he sees a truck careen out of nowhere and annihilate this car, which is apparently all incredibly staged, as we will find out. That is part of the master plan that has been created by the folks on the island. And I will just go on record as saying this is the first moment of deep, intense stupidity in this movie. So their plan involves so there is a woman driving that semi, apparently.
I think it's Sister Marge.
Must say,
Large Marge.
Noted for her largeness, yes.
Yeah.
Who crashes into this vehicle with the full expectation that it will not kill either of the people inside because of magical force fields or some shit. And that when the car explodes, that neither of them will be killed because they're going to be back on the island later on, looking sinisterishly at our cop as he is going to his doom. So this movie is dumb. I'm just going to say this. And while the trap part is taken from the original, and the trap in the original movie, I won't say you probably can't see it coming. I don't think it really surprised me when the town turns on him. I don't think that's not why you're watching The Wicker Man. You're not going to be surprised by that. But here, not only is it totally not a surprise, it's also totally, totally dumb. Again, it has been given away all the way through the movie. This movie is the worst at foreshadowing and thinking it is so fucking clever as it's doing it. It's like this is a deep, deep psychological thriller written by a 5-year-old who has just discovered what puns are. And the cop
I love it.
To know that everyone wants to kill him because he's going to say things like, sorry, you're going to have to bear with me when he ends up in a bear costume later. And that's the level of cleverness that this movie aspires to.
And that's why I love it. And Alan, you just I was wondering why you hated it, and I just found out.
There's a bunch of reasons why I hate this movie. We're gonna be talking lovingly.
I wrote it down.
The enormous plot holes in this thing.
I would not. They're not plot holes. It's a higher level of film. People are used.
All right.
See, sometimes I will go back and say I have actually made that argument in other movies that we've talked about.
Yeah.
That argument is not going to be made of this movie.
Well, it's interesting. How many times have you seen this movie, Alan?
I've only seen that. This is the second time I've seen it. Because I saw the Riff Tracks one, and then I managed to lose my copy of it. And I didn't really feel too bad about that. And then I got the idea with the Nick Cage season that we had to see it because of Not the Bees, because it is an iconic modern Nick Cage movie.
Well, I'm going to argue you need to watch it more, because the first time I started watching it, speaking of the dialogue, well, let me do this other way. 10 minutes in, and I lost my give a shit the first time I started watching it. But then after I got into it and started watching it again, I was mesmerized. The start of the dialogue, though, in the very first scene inside a little dinery shoppy place scared the F out of me, and with good reason. The dialogue is by far the weakest part of this movie.
Yes.
And it also sets up the possibility, the quite literal possibility, that every woman that Nick Cage encounters in this movie is evil. It turns out there's one exception, and that's the waitress at the beginning. The only woman he encounters who is not in on the plot. And she calls him honey, so even that's debatable.
Yeah, interesting. Well, so I think one of the biggest problems with this movie is that anytime you try to have a stupid cop, it doesn't really work very well, because it's so anti who those characters should be or what we think those.
Now, that said, we will have to return to that with Edward Woodward's character in the original version.
Okay.
Because he's a very interesting guy, and he's totally different from Malus. I mean, he is a totally different kind of guy. And I think his dumbness kind of comes from his rigidity as an authority figure. He actually has authority, unlike Nick Cage's character, who is effectively on vacation, despite the fact that he perpetually threatens people that he's a cop, even after Sister Beach points out to him, oh, yeah, you're a California cop? You know, this is Washington. And he just chooses to ignore that, despite the fact that it's very obvious that everybody on the island is onto him. He can literally do nothing to them other than shoot them. And of course, as we find out later, he can't even do that.
The very first cop that we get introduced to is the one sitting at the diner, who my very first thought I remember about this movie, the first time I watched it, was the waitress basically walks up to him and startles him. And I'm like, holy shit, that cop's a freaking idiot. Total lack of awareness. I don't care. And he explains it away. I was deep in thought, or I was thinking about something or whatever else, right? So I think the filmmakers are trying to establish a universe where it's true. Like, what we're seeing is supposed to be kind of like founded in truth.
Yeah, that's how they're trying to scare you, is making it more realistic.
So in this universe, ACAB stands for All Cops Are Blind, or All Cops Are Bumblers.
Yeah, I mean, the other place this movie fails, outside of the dialogue, is the score. The score is almost, it's very much, was a Batman versus Superman that I complained about before on like our Justice League stuff. Like it's so intense all the time.
Yeah.
There are a few scenes. Go ahead, Alan.
And let me interrupt you on that one. The original Wicker Man actually has songs in it, as in extended singing numbers in it, and they're amazing. And its soundtrack is really good.
Do you
again, this is another horrible...
No, not like that.
Do you want to build a stick, man?
No.
No, it's not.
Have a girl set it on fire.
It's not sacrificed, the musical.
Put Nick Cage in the crotch and
Wicker.
And like the match and let it go.
I noticed that for the score, it would have been better, like, and this is towards the end, when they have their little dance ritual and they're kind of dancing and all dressed up in animals.
Oh, the
score was very...
I think that's called the safety dance.
Yes, the safety dance. But the score was...
the fire safety dance.
The score was very menacing, though. They could have easily had the score be silent and actually them just singing. And that would have been more suspenseful because he knows this bad thing's happening. We know this bad thing's happening. But now you're beating us over the head with this bad music's happening, so this bad thing's happening.
So as Edward Woodward is being burned to death in the first movie, and again,
spoilers.
I think we're satisfied with that not being a spoiler by now.
You can't spoil a bad movie.
We're talking about the original, which
okay,
sorry, movie.
Yeah.
So as he is burning, instead of chanting, "The drone must die," and of course they're all doing it in unison, which indicates that they are in fact the drones. Get it? This is a good movie.
Oh.
Anyway, no, it's not. Anyway, I'm going to keep saying that all the way through. I mock the screenwriter because this is awful. I mean, it's just bad all the way through. And the fact that they thought that this did any level of homage to an actual great movie is just shameful. I mean, so anyway, in the original, as he's burning, they're singing "Summer Is a Comin' In," which is a traditional folk song, and they're having a great time. Everybody's super happy. I mean, it's turned into like a big old party as they're watching him burn, and it's great. I mean, it is a totally different kind of setup, which is going to get to our other problem here later on, which is that Neil LaBute hates women so much that they're not allowed to have any fun whatsoever at any time. The one fun thing that they can do on this island is they can drink mead and they can occasionally play pranks on the guy they're going to sacrifice. That's it. They are not allowed to have any other fun.
I don't know. There's lots of pregnant women in this movie.
Yeah, they're not allowed to have any fun.
Yes.
Because the only pleasure they get is from stealing the seed of honest, hardworking, heroic men. So yeah, it's misogynist. Anyway, continue.
What does misogynist mean?
It means hatred of women, or hatred or fear of women, and in this case, it's both.
Really?
It is a deep, intense hatred of women, which has no place in the original movie. The original movie is not about male and female conflict at all. Lord Summerisle is played by Christopher Lee. He is the benevolent aristocrat who's in charge of the island. And it's not Summersisle, by the way. It's Summerisle. Apparently, according to IMDb, it was changed because they thought Americans couldn't say Summerisle. And Summersisle was supposed to be so much better. I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah, they're dumb.
I think that this movie is a comedy.
See, now that is exactly what apparently Nick Cage and Neil LaBute have tried. And let's say it, everybody. So who else has made this infamous claim? Oh, let's see.
Hi, Mark.
All right, so let's start with the originator. Let's start with the originator of this, who was Paul Verhoeven with Showgirls. Oh, it's a dark comedy, after he very clearly set it up not to be. We also have it where Tommy Wiseau and The Room, as we've already alluded to.
Wait,
and now we've got
too?
Ed
Wood?
No, Ed Wood never bothered trying to defend his movies like that. He just thought they were good. I mean, he didn't think they were actually, he didn't realize that people thought they were crap, really. Or he might have, but he didn't care. Whereas here we have the very obvious ass coverage moment that does not make any sense from the performance of the movie or the movie itself. There is some absurdist stuff in it, and there's some absurd stuff in the original, too. But it doesn't work. It's not. All right, so at that point, I have to ask, so what was the funnier part of this? Where Nick Cage gets his legs broken in a horrific scene they actually had to cut from the PG-13 version that I saw? Or is it, say, when the young girl keeps getting hit by the truck?
Oh, I was screwed up. The stuff that you posted about the bees, that scene and the breaking of the legs, I'd never seen that before. I knew about the meme, and then the version I watched on Amazon and paid $5.99
was the PG-13 version, like I saw again. Yeah,
and I'm like, and that yelling, screaming, "Oh, my legs!" and the Nick Caginess of that delivery, is comedy. I'm gonna argue is comedy. Because his delivery is different there from other parts of the film. And he's an actor who knows what he's doing. This is good, Nick Cage. All of that.
We're going to get to that later on.
All of that R stuff is voiceovered here with kind of wide shots.
Yes. Now I like to imagine other wacky comedians getting their legs broken like that. I like to imagine like Jim Carrey shrieking along with that, or
there are a couple film somatic choices, cinematography choices that are made that I think would hint to it being a comedy. And one of those is early on, there's a scene where there's a dialogue back and forth, and the cutting is actually on the dialogue, and that plays as funny. Versus sometimes you let the audio of one go under the other person and weaves the conversation together a little bit more. This was very much a back and forth of a comedy and comedic interchange. So that's why I think it's a comedy. Plus how
funny part I had.
Cage plays it.
Well, the only funny part I had
is.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was really very bad. But when how did it burn? That was the only thing I'm like, oh my God, this is hilarious. That's it. Everything else, there was no bits. There was no outlandish jokes. There was no dark jokes either. I didn't
there's a little bit of sarcasm that'll sometimes leak out in Melis's lines. The one that I'm thinking of is when he's interacting with Sister Beach, and he then says, "As long as I'm not intruding," and does like this weird jazz hands that sass her, and I'm like, okay, he's just being bitchy at that point. I kind of appreciate that.
Or when he's at the bar and he asks for a drink of mead, and they go, "It's mead." He's like, "Fine, okay." He drinks half of it, puts it down, then starts yelling like he's angry. He like hits the bar, and he turns around and says, "I'm gonna have to talk to every single one of you because there's a child missing, this and that." And then he goes back and he covers the beat, and I'm just like, this was all very awkward.
Now the difference between scenes there, because there is a scene like this in the original. However, the bar is rowdy and everybody's having a great time.
That makes sense.
And he's pissed because he's the lawful good paladin wandering into the town of chaotic neutral people, and he wants their attention, damn it. So he pounds on the bar and then tells them that he's the new law in town, and he's gonna find this girl who's missing, which makes a lot of sense there. But when you're announcing this to the world's worst bar, where everybody already has their souls broken as he's addressing them, it doesn't have that same charge at all. It's this is a JJ Abrams conversion of a movie. This is
now you know how we feel.
Like, he watches something, he gets certain notes out of it that he really wants to emphasize, and they're all fucking wrong.
Yeah,
I mean, everything gets reinterpreted in wrong or ways that deflate the original. There is nothing this movie does better than the original, I maintain. And that's rare. I would generally at least have to give it to somebody.
Vanderpool's got something.
What about the cinematography?
Cinematography is so much better in the original.
Seriously?
Yes.
This is an award-winning film, Alan. Did you know that this film won awards?
You want a Razzie?
Watch the sacrifice scene in the in the original.
Okay.
It is entirely different, and the way that this one is set up reinforces the misogyny and dumbness of the whole plot. Ultimately, it does not work. In comparison.
Too bad we didn't figure out. Too bad we couldn't figure out how time travel works in our time travel season, because then we could have gone back in time to made this a double feature to watch both on this podcast.
I did not want to talk about a good movie.
This movie did win the CSC award for best cinematography in theatrical feature, and I'm going to argue that the cinematography was really good. Cinematography was really good, which is why I think that comedy cutting there, even some of the setups and jump cuts and things like that were almost like a spoof than a true horror presentation, in all honesty.
A little bit, I could see that. But again, it felt like...
Oh, Clint's on my side now.
No. I didn't. It felt like it was 2006 is when it came out. It felt like one of those psychological thriller mystery movies that came out in like 96, 97, 98. So it's way behind in the feel of...
Right.
Yes, I'd agree with that. This does have a certain quality of the post-Scream horror movie, where horror movies became really bad again immediately after a really good one that highlighted a lot of genre problems. And then apparently a bunch of film directors decided, well, we're just going to go right back to doing everything pre-Scream and make a pile of money based on it. So great.
So is this a movie made by one person, or would this be the problem of the executives getting involved?
Good question.
Anybody take the time to actually read the Wikipedia story?
No.
Yeah, same. So there is, I got the feeling that, again, a lot of the stuff in here, everything that they did intentional. There's some nods to Vertigo in this thing, and Vertigo being another film.
There's nods to Hitchcock and everything.
Yeah. But this is specific quoting. When he falls through the barn floor, or the second floor of the barn, and hangs there, that is, I bet if you lay those out side by side, there is some exact quoting of Jimmy Stewart hanging at the beginning of Vertigo. It's also a cop who's pretty shitty at his job, who has...
Whoa, Jimmy Stewart wasn't bad at his job.
Oh, dude, he's horrible at his job in that thing.
How?
We'll talk about that when we talk about Hitchcock. Also,
all cops in classic movies are terrible cops for the most part.
Vertigo is very much the exact same setup story. Like he's being set up to follow this path and is totally oblivious that he's being set up. So bad cop.
Yeah.
There's Vertigo-ish in this. Yes, 100%.
I had a problem with that shot though. You're talking about where he was hanging from the barn, because I didn't know what was underneath him. Like, it seemed like he could have just dropped down and been fine, but it was all like it was blurry or weird.
So that's a filmmaker. That's a choice by the filmmaker to not be so like on the nose with what's going on. You get that subtleness of the pitchforks there instead of a screaming pitchfork threatening.
So is the threatening me?
I'm saying, is the threat real or not, is the question that this film explores, as it takes the relationship between a man and a woman and society and puts it on a platter for us to explore.
Wait, back up. So are you saying that movies that quote other movies and take bits of other movies and puts it together are good?
I'm saying that you can shove Galaxy Lords up your ass.
Oh, and by the way, the word that we're looking for is a pastiche.
Ooh, what does that mean?
It means a artistic work that's put together from bits of other works. We can also call it bricolage.
So Galaxy Lords is pastiche and bricolage.
A pastiche of ass.
And again,
that'd be a piece of ass, maybe. Never mind.
But again, it all depends on how you do it. The artistic work can be, like a standard Quentin Tarantino movie is a bricolage piece of art, whereas this is, well, we can...
Not.
This movie has one of the greatest lens flares in all of cinema. It's so
JJ Abrams.
all over this, man. And I don't know what point. So that is after the barn scene. So he's doing some of his hijinks. Kind of found out this is a weird place. Is chasing after what may or may not be the illusion of the girl that he's originally trying to find. And at that point, I wrote down, and this is about quarter to a third of the way through the film. Pacing is moving fast. Thank God. I think the initial pacing of this movie was done well. Later on, I wrote, "What is this, Sputter Island?" Because it does start to sputter a little bit.
The one issue that you guys will definitely have with the original Wicker Man is that it is very slow.
Although
it really takes its time. But again,
Straw Dog's the same way too.
It's a full horror movie. It's gonna take its time.
Is it slow for the time, or
I think it's
slow for our time?
I think it's slow for the time period.
Interesting.
But again, it picks up near the end but again, it doesn't have that frenetic feeling here as much. The trap feels very differently.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I'm looking through my notes. Sorry. So the
shame on you for preparing.
No. I just realized something. The pilot, so Nick Cage's character goes to northern Washington area, and then he uses sound.
Yes. I believe this is based on a true story, by the way.
It is. All movies are. But he has to go to the island, so he's either got to swim, catch a boat, or get the pilot. And the pilot said, "I'm going there because I have to deliver supplies." So he goes, "Okay, cool. Let me hitch a ride." And he said, "No, we like our privacy here." And then 2 seconds later, he lets him in because he gave him $100. Anyways, he goes there again when Nick Cage is already on the island to drop off more supplies, supposedly. And his plane is still there. The radio's bashed up. And then you find out later that his hands were cut off. His eyes and his mouth were sewed shut. But if all of this was a trap, then why kill that guy? If everything was...
And isn't this what makes this a great movie? That ability to talk about it after the fact and explore what was going on.
You know, it's a great movie for us to be able to talk about after the fact, and we've done this for seasons now.
No, it's you that bring up Galaxy Lords, you motherfucker. I'm going to come over there. I'm going to take the DVD and special edition of it and shove it up your ass.
You have the special edition? You bought it? So you bought
your special edition.
I don't have one.
Yeah, it's the suppository edition.
Speaking of shoving things up your ass, first rule of the fertility festival is casually mention how no one is allowed to know about it.
Yeah,
and I think that's where this movie gets weird. Is it's this setup, but the setup of the setup is so stupid because it makes it so obvious that it is a setup that it says this cop has no fucking clue about how to be a cop or even a human being with any fucking thought about life and love and bullshit.
All right, so let's review why Malus is a
good day. Go ahead.
So first of all, when he's looking through the pictures of past of like the historical review of human sacrifice, he reads in the obvious setup material that women are frequently sacrificed. Number one, this is not true. And number two, as the trained observer is looking through the pictures and the rest of that collection, they're all men. So, number one, clue missed. Number two, he's chased by bees because he's stupid and got distracted and bumped his bike that he was walking into a beehive. A man who is deathly allergic to bees.
But what did he get distracted by, Alan?
A bunch of bees. He was looking at other bees and he saw these bees.
So their plan is so stupid that I have to ask, was that part of their plan too?
That it's amazing stupidity is part of the clever plot. I don't.
Yeah. I don't know.
According to the 5 minutes of exposition, 2/3 of the way through this film, Yes, it is all planned. And their plan together has come together better than most Scooby-Doo episodes, because even this one could be ruined by these kids and their...
You stupid kids and that dumb dog. Yes. So when he finds out that the girl who he now thinks is his daughter is buried, and he gets he gets permission to exhume her, he does so at night because it's dramatic. That is dumb. Don't do that, dude. Just don't. Then, if she's crying, why the hell do you think she's underwater, you moron?
Yes.
Why are you going to wander into the underwater trap when you hear her crying and you don't hear a splash? Don't do that. Don't go into the murky black water after your crying daughter.
Yeah.
When very clearly she is not submerged.
I think the decision by the filmmakers to explain away some of Melis's lack of awareness of the situation is that he's constantly taking pills as a response to a flashback of the traumatic event. So he does have PTSD, and
he must be taking a lot of pills.
But again, was that part of the plan too? Like, I don't understand.
All right, and then
we
finally,
needed a scene instead of that cop at the beginning, who's the blonde, who we are all going to assume, I think, is a plant. That maybe would have been better served as him going to see a doctor and being given pills from another blue-eyed blonde.
Or, any number of other possible openings.
Yeah.
But
or just to cut the opening scene entirely. You can always have him looking at the letter while he's on the plane.
No. I like that opening scene. Where you mean right before the opening credits?
Well,
is that what you're talking about, Alan?
What, with the diner and the the incredibly pointless encounter with the mother and daughter that serves literally no purpose in the plot, none whatsoever, other than to convince him that all bitches are in on this together.
Ooh. Yeah. If you took that scene and put it into a Ghost Rider film, I couldn't tell the difference. Like, it seemed like I was like, am I watching the right film? And then after a while it said Wicker Man. I'm like, okay, good, because I thought it was going to be Ghost Rider.
Well, goodness, we dodged that bullet temporarily.
So, I mean, if you are stupid and take drugs, you're not going to be smarter. You're going to be more stupid or stupider. I don't know which is the proper word, right? So
today's episode is brought to you by Stizzy. Don't take drugs, kids.
But Nick Cage is set up as completely stupid because he walks into the middle of the highway, not looking both ways, kneeling down, taking too long to grab a bear, doesn't hear a fucking semi-truck coming,
barreling,
and driven
by Sister Marge, as we've established.
Yes. Oh, yes, because they wouldn't honk the horn because this is all set up, an elaborate setup.
Yeah.
Yes.
But when he got off the motorcycle, he looked behind him so he can walk.
Yeah.
I noticed that. So it's weird. Yeah.
Alan, I have a question.
Yeah.
As someone who is a historical purveyor of culture and things of that ilk, also as a academic professor.
A literary anthropologist?
Yes, that's a great word that I don't know.
I'm not an anthropologist. I'm a folklorist.
I said literary.
And I think we've already determined that you're a cunning linguist. So what can you tell me? What can you tell me? Where in the fuck did patches on the elbows of sports coats come from?
I don't know, and I love them. That's like the only thing in Edward Malice that I could get behind is he had those stupid patches on his jacket. I've got several of those.
I've seen it for professors, but I've seen it for police officers,
like random cop.
Yeah.
Although weirdly enough, like there's a whole type of British cop sweater that actually has patches on the elbows. So I don't know.
And on the shoulder there too.
And I bet, now that I think about it, I bet, what's his name? Edward Woodward is wearing something like that at some point in Wicker Man.
Well, those would originally come out, as most fashions do, at least previously, as functionality, right? So like, it would be somebody who was in a coat and was going to be moving all day.
Right.
friction there would eventually wear away. So maybe it was because professors
Or I
had
don't
to
know,
do this in the
typing or
classroom.
something.
Well, not typing, you're kind of just right here, right? But as a police officer, maybe because you're doing this
I
all
don't
the
know. I
time.
need reinforcement. All the time, apparently. And let's cover the last reason now that we're talking about drawing your weapon all the time. Podcasting's a visual medium. While you are... So a police officer who has a sidearm very clearly is familiar with brandishing it, and he can't tell that his service weapon is empty.
Yeah.
Oh, there was a time before that too,
Yeah.
when he took his jacket off, his shirt off, and his sidearm off because he wanted to swim to the O, and he just left it there.
Right.
Like, you're on this island, they're all suspect, they're all kind of, you don't know who's doing what, and you're just gonna leave your only weapon that is actually a big no-no to leave out.
He's not
Yeah.
a cop.
Forget about it. It
Edward
doesn't need
Mail
any
is-
backup, or it doesn't need to call for help when it's very clearly investigating a murder,
As I think back to all the research that I did around police officers when in the 80s, if I remember right from watching Chips, most cops aren't on the road. Motorcycle cops aren't on the road as individuals. They usually go in pairs.
Well, you got to
Makes sense.
Ponch and John. You can't have Poncherelli going on his own.
But then I guess it's not entirely true.
Then
because
there's
Back
no
to the
square to compare him to make sure that that Poncherelli is a renegade.
But I guess it probably depends on the type of motorcycle officer. Maybe we could phone a friend here, because most of the time, I think they're only by themselves when they're hiding behind a billboard trying to catch somebody. I think that's the difference.
But
Like
the
the
waitress
highest
called him.
quality of movie. Yeah.
Yes.
But the waitress called him his partner when the guy with the mustache was sitting at the diner, deep in thought, and then later on he goes to that guy, only other guy he interacts with pretty much. And I love it.
Yeah.
The guy so the child goes missing, the mother goes to the police, and the other cop says, blow it off, have her go to the father for help. Pretty much, it's not my job. I'm like, dude, that's your job. I don't understand.
Well, your job is to report it to the local authorities,
Yes.
which doesn't even occur to him, apparently. There's no scene where he's calling the local cops and going, hey, could you guys go out and check on this? No, I'm not crazy. Slam down the phone and then decides to go himself.
Yeah, that would make more sense.
What this film really needed was the chief of police saying, it's out of your jurisdiction. Forget about it.
Malice, this is not your personal war.
And then
I want your gun in your badge.
He was already on leave because the PTSD stuff.
He has to come back then and be comforting after the fact. I know this matters to you. It's important. Look at importance, handle it. But
I got kids myself. I wouldn't leave them on an island full of evil murder bitches.
Ooh, that's the B word twice.
It's going to keep showing up because of this movie.
Speaking of B words, let's talk about our sisters. Sister Beach,
and she's a real bitch. Get it? This is a good movie. Yeah.
So Alan, you know what I'm noticing? You're criticizing this movie for its choices to be more like literature than cinema.
Ooh. Only the worst of Hardy Boys literature, I can assure you.
Oh, Alfred Fiend might have a... Never mind. Hold on. Phallic symbol. There's a quote. I got it up before anybody else.
Is this the first instance, or the only instance, I guess, of Chekhov's bee? Is this there?
Yeah.
Yes.
And as IMDb helpfully points out, the tankard he's drinking from has a raised bottom on it.
Mm-hmm.
So when he slams it down on the bee, it wouldn't have done anything. The bee would have been just fine.
Yeah.
Perhaps a little scared, but other than that, angry maybe. But other than that, it would have flown up and stung him probably after that.
Isn't it amazing how you can swat insects and deform their bodies and they're still alive? And you watch
that's scary.
Watch them twitch around for a little bit and see what's going to happen, and then
that's messed up. Just wait until the insects rise up and take over again.
Speaking of insects rising up, Sister Rose is hot. She also
What's up with the double?
well, there's twins all throughout this thing, right? And
Right.
blonde-haired twins are horror for whatever reason. As much as I think they're fun, most of cinema presents them as being part of
What other twins were there?
this entire movie, dude. There's
Well, there's
twins all over.
there's the phallic symbol kids who
Okay, yeah.
misread their stage direction.
there's
And then we've got the creepy old twins who speak totally in unison.
Those are my favorite part of the movie.
Yep.
Those two ladies, awesome.
there's also two more twins at the front of the other side of the classroom as well. One of the first shots when we see
Okay.
there are
Yeah.
twins.
I'm thinking of the
And really, all the kids look alike. So I mean, they're all white blonde kids with pigtails. So I mean, they all kind of have a twin feel to them.
Sister Rose in this. She's the teacher.
And she's the one brunette.
No,
No,
that's
I
Sister
think
Thorne.
about it.
That's Sister Thorne. Was
No,
it
Sister
Thorne?
Rose has dark hair.
Sister Rose.
Yeah,
The school teacher.
school
Yeah.
marm has dark hair.
Yeah. She is the one who really does define who the Edward Malice, the Nick Cage character, is. He's the Don Quixote of the story.
Yes, and let's talk about things that are way too goddamn obvious. Number one, there's multiple references to Don Quixote. He's referred to as a
Yes.
good knight later on. And incidentally, this is not what gets the officer in the original in trouble. We'll come back to that. It's a totally different dynamic. Here it is because Malice is playing into the heroic dude who wants to save things, kind of.
I think E40 would call that Captain Save-A-Ho.
Yeah, that would actually work really well. And actually, it fits into the worldview, and it fits into the worldview of this movie because, again, he gets burned for it.
In this case, it's Captain Save-A-Ho's daughter. But yes.
Yeah.
Just an extension of the metaphor and idea.
And I just realized a connection to Quantum Leap because Sam left into an actor that played Don Quixote, and the stage played Don Quixote.
Really, I love the
Yeah.
quote. I love the quote that's there though, because it made me think about myself. So
Did it make you look it up?
no
Because I looked it up immediately.
quixotic?
Not quixotic.
No,
Quixotic is, and that's legitimate, by the way. That's how you pronounce Don Quixote's name being turned into an adjective.
yeah. But Sister Rose gives the quote, and I identify with this: "Pursuer of lofty but impractical ideals."
Usually a man.
Man, yeah.
Wink, wink.
Baby.
Since apparently misandry is the only thing we teach at this school. So there's also a William Blake quote that's on the board, which
Yeah, I agree
is,
with that.
of course, amazingly funny. That he erases it without even looking at it, because of course it is the clearest warning of all to him about what's happening. It is once meek and on the perilous path, the just man kept his course along the vale of death. Roses are planted where thorns grow. Wink, wink, anyway. And on the barren heath sing the honeybees after they break his legs and then hoist him into a big pile of kindling.
I have a question.
There's also one minute. In that school scene, he's also very predominantly standing in front of a door that has a hive being wrapped by a snake behind it.
Yep.
There's my contribution. Go on, Clink.
I have a question. So, those girls never really leave the island,
Right.
only to possibly go and snare a man so they can sacrifice him. Right? That's not my question, but I'm setting it up.
I mean, there's another additional purpose, so that they can get some new. Don't ruin the genetic pool
Okay.
by being too
So-
incestuous. They have to bring it from outside chromosomes.
So why are they in school?
To indoctrinate them in misandry. Duh.
Why is everybody going
When
to school?
you're writing a script and you're a misogynist, everything that women do has to be about screwing over men. So their schooling is about screwing over men. Their culture is about screwing over men. Their leisure activities are about screwing over men. Everything is about screwing over men.
I mean,
So you need to
same
do that
reason we were in
through
school. Not the same reason.
Well,
but
yeah, but you need to do that through literature.
yes.
Apparently,
Okay.
because apparently William Blake was a big old cuck. But anyway,
Wait, did you say cock or cuck?
cuck.
Thank you.
He's obviously on the side of these killer bitches. Come on.
One thing that bothered me about that school scene too was Sister Rose said she doesn't exist, and then Nick said, "What do you mean? I just saw that she exists because her name was scratched out." And he said, "Is she dead?" And Sister Rose said, "We don't use that word." But then 2 seconds, not even 2 seconds later, she said she was burnt to death. I'm like, dead and death, pretty sure mean the same thing.
Yes, that would be bad writing. Yes.
Or intentionally grade writing. There's. Do you guys know? Do you guys know what the name Rowan means?
It's a type of tree, if I remember right. Like all the other lady names here.
Oh, because it's a historically masculine name of Irish and English origins, which comes from derived from the Irish name Rúdhan, which means red hair. And I just don't have a citation for that, so thank God this isn't an academic intent at anything.
So before the big twist, because I was trying to ride this movie with it, before the big twist, I thought this movie seems like it would have been solved if Willow, the woman that is the mother of his child, would have just told him everything right away. Because she was like, "Oh, I can't tell you," or hemming, hawing, and he's like, "Just tell me." And she's like, "Ha, I gotta go, but bye." Like, no, just 2 seconds. But then after the big twist of she's setting him up, it makes sense then. But
And she's also not a character at all.
She's the worst part
I
of this
mean,
movie.
she
Man.
is awful.
She is the only reason this movie doesn't work. She is the only reason this movie doesn't work.
There's
only
a
reason-
lot of
The only
reasons
reason.
that this movie doesn't work.
The only
We're going to get into total ignorance of how physics works later on and human biology. So anyway,
So speaking of human biology, have you ever had a couple drinks and gone to a bar and had a couple more drinks and then found somebody that you thought was attractive and one thing leads to another and you end up taking them back to their place and then you get inside and it's kind of like a mess and then you get them maybe up a little bit into the bedroom and maybe things don't smell exactly like they should, but you're just going to go along for the ride anyway. That's this.
Where are you going with this?
That's
Oh
this
my God.
movie to me.
Oh my God.
I was along for the ride on this movie, even though I was doing some things that I wasn't really that into. I was just like, sure, we'll see where this goes. And then once it got there, that's when Willow's facial expression at the end, when the secret was revealed and that she was in on it and everything else, played so stupid because she was like expressing concern in her expression.
She was. It seemed like she was sad, but she wasn't sad.
Yeah, so like at that point though, I was like, that's what took me out of the ride. That was finally the chick farting and I having to just go home.
her face is totally blank when she drops the cartridges out of her hand, when she reveals that she has stolen the seed from our masculine cop's phallic symbol and reveals that he is emasculated phallic symbol.
If you were going to say it twice, I was going to edit it in so it was said twice. Just
there we go.
Let's all do it. Let's all do it right now. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Phallic symbol. Phallic symbol.
Stabilits.
Oh, how many takes it took the twins to make that?
I don't know.
One, because they screwed it up. I think they were supposed to stay at unison, and they just kept it.
The dialogue was really horrible throughout this whole thing, but falls off even more at the end when Willow and Malus have the conversation after what he finds at Dr. Moss's office. That was Nicolas Cage stumbled there as an actor. I believe he made a choice, a bold choice, but because of the lack of giving from his partner in that scene, it ended up being community theater. No fault of Nick Cage. He's not that great of an actor.
If their plan is to keep him alive so they can burn him in the Wicker Man, why did they leave him overnight in that water underneath the crypt? Because if he's not a strong swimmer, he drowns, and then everything is for naught. Right? Is that what I'm getting?
They just did it to be bitches. That's the only explanation I can come up with. This is just more of a pattern of terrible female behavior here in a movie written by a misogynist. Of course women would do that. Am I right, guys?
Sometimes you have to ignore the stinky pile of clothes in the corner and the other dude's pair of underwear over there and just stay committed to your choices.
You stay committed to this metaphor there, so good job. So I did find it funny that the main villain, the leader, Lady Summers Isle, is that her name?
Lady Sister Summers Isle, yes. She is the sister in this because of course there's no aristocracy. Because of course the men would lie about that. Anyway, continue.
But she believes in eugenics.
Yes.
Of course she does. They're all racist. I mean, the only way that they could have reinforced that more is if they were in Oregon. Which at the time when this colony would have transported did not allow black people to settle there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in their state constitution actually originally.
Yes.
So
it's messed up.
Yeah.
So, but that's the only way it could have been reinforced. Now, the ultimate irony is that I had just listened to a podcast about the Twilight Zone movie. Big shout out to Behind the Bastards and Robert Evans. So he was talking about the awful behavior of the director of that movie. But then he gets into a side discussion of William Friedkin in The Exorcist. There is a moment in which the mother of Regan, the possessed girl, is yanked down by a mechanical object, like it's like a reverse catapult. She's laced into it and it like flings her to the floor. And she suffered permanent lower back injury thanks to that asshole of a director. And that actress was Ellen Burstyn, who is Sister Summerisle here in this movie.
Wow.
And a woman who legitimately was maimed by an asshole male director ends up in this movie.
She was born in Detroit, Michigan, as a matter of fact. Based on my 30 seconds of Wikipedia and her to see if she was in what movie she was in.
Well, another proud Michigander.
So I have a quote. This is from Nick Cage, and excuse me. A response to something says, "Sounds like inbreeding to me." Back to the Future.
Really? Really?
Oh, sorry.
Really?
Yeah.
That's mean. That's mean.
It is. I appreciate that meanness.
The other thing I wrote, so when he does, there's an old part of the village that looks like it's torn down, or there's only bits of walls that are there, and there's a well that has a new lock on it, which should have been the first clue that this was in use.
It's the church, and it's the crypt underneath the church.
The churchyard, not the graveyard, ends up going into the water, takes off swimming where he knows not what anything is down there or is ahead, and all of a sudden there's a cut to a big stone head, and I'm like, Jesus, because it was a stone head of Jesus.
It was.
Jesus Christ.
That would have been hilarious if underwater will roll. Yelled it. Nick Cage could not save this movie. That's what I'm going to say. Nick Cage.
I think he really tried. I mean, I will not fault him for his efforts. I will fault him for his competence. I think there was definitely a problem here.
He had to have known, well, maybe he didn't know How to Get Burned and him yelling it 4 times. Maybe it was him as an actor giving it to the director 4 times, so the editor could have chosen one.
Yeah,
That's a possibility.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes. But I mean, if it's good once, it's got to be better 4 times. 4 times better.
Repeated with increasing intensity.
Yeah.
Starts.
And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The bees scene, which wasn't in my version, so I had to watch on YouTube.
The bees torture. The bees torture.
Yeah,
scene.
Bees torture. Sorry.
Yes.
But even then, it reminded me of the end scene of My Girl. It was sad when Macaulay Culkin's character gets bitten by bees and then dies because he's allergic. And then she's like, he can't see without his glasses. He's in pain. Like, no, he's dead, and crying. And
Thanks,
it was
Mike.
sad. It was sad.
You just brought this comedy film down to fucking tear jerking level.
It's okay. You all are too old for that. It was my generation that loved that movie.
Speaking of movies I love, this movie also made some multiple nods to Kubrick. Looking at an older version of himself in bed. Remember, he goes to some.
Oh, that was just a random dude.
Are you sure?
Because then there was a random naked lady with bees all over her for some reason.
But I think he was hallucinating, and I think that was a nod to Kubrick 2001, also a nod to Kubrick The Shining, so much so that I wrote down, could this movie have been called The Humming? But then I checked that out, and that title was already taken.
This also could have been a nod to
By a
Scorsese.
series of documentaries, perhaps, that you have viewed at some point.
There's at least 6 to 9 volumes of The Humming out there.
Of course.
Anyways, this could have been an homage to Scorsese, to
The N-word wasn't in it.
Tarantino,
The N-word wasn't in it. What do you?
And thank goodness. At least there's that.
to Spielberg, to Hitchcock. We already talked about Hitchcock because it's a film that's shot with a camera, and because of that, I'm gonna reach for every single thing.
Yes. This movie did remind me of the movie that I made as a student film I made. Yes, it did. It does have some of that going on. It does. It was good. I mean,
You said last Nick Cage episode that we did, which was about how they got married.
Yeah.
You said that all student art films are pretentious, and you wanted to make, what was it called? Benevolent
machinations. Yes.
Benevolent machinations.
Yes.
So be BM.
Yes. I made a benevolent machination.
There you go.
Yep. Speaking of that, another WTF moment. Alan, I've got quotes up the ass, but I'm not going to steal them. If I've got one, I should write this down. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this right now. I'm going to write this down, what I think is the timeline, or not the timeline, the quote for the episode. But what the fuck happened to the bike? He made such a big deal about getting the bike from fucking Sister Rosie who's going to shoot her. And then a scene later, and not even a scene later, a cut later, he's not even riding the fucking bike anymore. He's running.
I did not even notice that. Wow.
So I have two taglines that I'm trying to choose between.
Hold on.
And I bet whatever you're writing down is one of them.
Okay, hold on.
Because there's two and they're both amazing. They're both just so perfect. All right, are we ready?
Yep.
Wow, the plot thickens.
Okay.
Didn't even know you had a plot. It's number one.
It's not this whole. It wasn't that. No, hold on. Let's treat this like it's like that Newlywed Game, and you're gonna say making whoopee, and my response is making whoopee, and then Clint will cheer for us because we're gonna win a trip.
All right. This is a story whose chapters were carefully written.
Fuck.
What did you go with?
Something bad is about to happen. I can feel it.
Wah, wah.
Well, that is also appropriate. I always love it when a film character talks about how wonderful and intricate their plan was. Because their plan is always amazingly stupid at that point. It is always something that is so dumb that the screenwriter had to put in, this is really smart, despite all your misgivings at this point, in this case.
Yeah, and it would have worked out, too, if it were for those kids and that pesky dog.
Yep. Well,
I would have made this amazing.
So, quick review.
Sarah Michelle Gellar and Freddie Prinze Jr.?
Take the Freddie Prinze Jr. out of the way. Yeah.
So let's review how dumb an idea the leg breaking scene is.
Well,
So
we should let people know you may not have seen that, because if you watched the PG-13 cut on Amazon Prime, it's not in there.
yeah, so you do
on
owe it
YouTube.
to yourself to go onto YouTube and look up Not the Bees, Nick Cage, and then you will see this clip, because it will be there. Because this is the worst part of the movie, in the sense that it's the one that everybody quotes from it when they think about this movie. It's the Not the Bees screeching. So they shatter his legs.
Yes.
Yeah.
He is not going anywhere. And then what do they hoist him up by? Into the Wicker Man.
Wicker Man's crotch. Let's be as accurate as possible here.
They do pull him into the ass of the Wicker Man.
I wanted so maybe you're right. This wasn't a comedy, because if this was a comedy, we would have seen a shot and I'm putting a pen being much like of him being
Yeah. He'd be gradually
he would have
drawn into the asshole of the Wicker Man.
or he would have been male less.
Yeah.
Genius movie.
So they pull him up by his legs. Now, my mom broke her leg, and it was really horrifying. And I remember very distinctly the awful feeling that there's like nothing holding my mom's leg together right now. They would be pulling up a legless Nick Cage, and actually would not be pulling him up. They'd be pulling up his legs under those circumstances, because he would just be on the ground screaming about his now absent legs under those circumstances. Again, this is a good movie. So let's see.
It's not based on the true story, Alan. You have to stop thinking like that.
We established that all movies are based on true stories because they're movies, real events. Endgame, Harry Potter, Wicker Man, all true events.
Yes. So the actual burning scene, and this is where I disagree with the cinematography argument. So in the original, we'll see it. It's an amazingly shot sequence. It's the most beautiful part of the movie. It's incredible. It's really well done. It's just really well thought out. In this case, we have the burning of the Wicker Man, and the Wicker Man's head falls on top of the camera, and we get a shot of the ashes of the fire and the flames. Because after all, gentlemen watching this movie, we've all been burned by evil bitches, haven't we? Again, this is a good movie. This is a movie that is not misogynist in any way. So, that's totally different from the original. Of course, that's a choice by the director. That sucks. So beyond that, the end scene, we have a honey trap being deployed. Now, when we were talking about this last night, Jess and I agreed, hey, you could have actually made a good movie about this, about a cult like the Children of God, which actually did do this. They actually sent attractive young women out in a process they call flirty fishing. And there's nothing fun, unfortunately, about this, because the Children of God cult was a bunch of child molesters, ultimately. Really terrible. But they did this as part of trying to recruit new members.
Wait a minute, Alan. If they are pedophiles, how do they know that there are attractive young women that they're going to send out there that are going to get people? Because they would know, because those are too old for them.
Fine, ephebophiles. Anyway, actually, yeah, not to be libertarians here, but so the honey trap gets deployed, and who is the honey trap at the end of this movie? Get ready for it. It's Sister Honey. This is a good movie. It's symbolism, bitches. Yeah.
So why is it that Sister Honey, towards the beginning of the movie, said, "Hey, take me with you when you leave"?
Part of
what
the
was
intricate trap.
How?
I have no idea.
Understand.
It doesn't make sense.
It makes total sense.
And she does it multiple times, and she actually she actually attacks Malus in the inn as if to prevent him from going to the sacrifice. My initial comment was, hey, does Sister Cute actually want to keep him from getting murdered here? It's like, no, she just, I don't know. She just thought that she'd hop on the Nicolas Cage train for a while, I guess. I don't know.
Chew, motherfucking chew.
He does like he'd be fun to jump on his shoulders or something. Like,
hold on. Are we at the point where we're learning things?
No, I'm just saying.
No. We've got one more. We've got one more comment to make. Or actually, I've got one more thing that I've got to get out because it makes me immeasurably angry. So this movie is dedicated to Johnny Ramone. Now,
yes.
I have a complicated history with Johnny Ramone because I love the Ramones. Johnny Ramone, however, was a fucking fascist. He was a huge, obvious Reagan supporter. He was a taskmaster to the other members of the Ramones because, let's face it, they needed somebody to get them to their gigs on time. He's the one who apparently introduced the original Wicker Man to Nicolas Cage, according to IMDb, which is why he gets this credit here at the end. Number one, Johnny Ramone's an asshole. I'm probably happy he's dead, actually. And no, don't dedicate your shit movie to the person who actually introduced you to an amazing work of art. And then number two, I found myself wondering, would Johnny like this movie better? Because it is the natural extension of the deep misogyny that was at the core of Reaganism, which is now exploding into our culture to an even greater extent. I mean, this is why we got to control women, after all, because if left to their own devices, they're going to steal our seed, our kids, and burn us in a giant wooden sculpture, apparently. So I found myself appalled and disgusted, amused, I guess, in a really terrible way. I don't even know what to think about it. It's yet another thing for me to sit and stew about.
And most great cinema does make you reflect and think upon your life and its choices.
Or make me vow never to watch it again.
Speaking of never watching it again, Clink, do you have anything else? Because my sheet is clean.
So last time, Nicolas Cage Quandaries was a big hit, so I think I'll go with it again. My next quandary. Hold on. If a man burns in the forest, does he make a sound? To which I'm asking, if a society okays the occasional murder, is that murder still bad? Are things inherently bad, or is it still not okay? And that was my Nick Cage quandary.
Well, in this case, it's not okay because women are doing it. But anyway,
I think it's okay because it's a colony. And it's okay when you're a colony to do things that you may or may not otherwise find morally correct in the future because you are protecting the colony.
Like
bees.
Buzz, motherfuckers. All right, so what did we learn? I think we're at that point of the story here. This movie was kind of long. I will give it that. It was an hour and 42 minutes too long. I mean, approximately 10 minutes too long. But I learned something, and I'm interested to hear what you both learned.
Alan, what'd you learn?
I learned that it is innately hilarious to watch a man in a bear suit punch somebody, regardless of the gender of the person who they punch. I found that the other punches to be gratuitous and insane. The bear punch is legitimately funny. that is a moment at which I was like, okay, movie, this is like the one darkly comic moment where a man in a bear suit runs up to a woman and just flat out punches her.
Are you guys familiar with the Nostalgia Critic on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay. I watched his video on Wicker Man, and it's not that great, but he does get to a point where he recuts the running up bear suit punch with improvised Nick Cage, or impersonating Nick Cage to deliver punny lines.
Okay.
Yeah, which is worth going and finding and watching, because it's just one right after another. Like something about Winnie the shut the fuck up or something like that with the punch.
Wow.
So, yeah. Yes. Clink, would you like to learn first, or should I learn first?
Well, I learned 3 things apparently. The first one was I can hide behind the law and say, I am the law, I'm going to arrest you, but then also break the people's basic rights and go through an unlawful search and seizure because I'm the law, because that's what he did throughout the entire movie, towards the end there especially. That was 1. 2, if I have this master plan that happens to work out, I can just say at the end that all those weird things that happen that don't make sense, that was part of my plan. It's okay. I'm a genius. Plan solved. The third one was apparently, crap, what was it? Alan just said it. All women are going to burn you if you don't watch out. That was a bad one.
It's apparently celibacy or gayness for every man.
Wait. But if it's Reaganomics, whatever, then you can't be gay.
This is a highly complex film that explores.
No, it's not.
Questions.
Well, you can completely rewrite society to control women, which is arguably what is happening. But
society, morality. This film doesn't present us with any answers. It just presents questions.
That I will agree with.
What I learned, what I learned is I think I'm a misogynist.
Oh my God! Yes, we got that.
Am I? If I like this movie, does that mean I'm a misogynist? I don't know.
I thought you were just doing a bit. You actually did.
As long as you don't reorganize your life around the premises of this movie, I think you're okay.
Well, let me tell you how I have arranged my life, because this just dawned on to me recently. I'm a child of divorce from the 80s, which was, I think, still a weird time where whatever it was. Maybe it was
samesies.
Yeah. And at that time, my perception of what the normal family was, if I look back right now, was Leave It to Beaver. Was my original first, like, what I saw as a normal family, or what I thought was a normal family. And then it was Good Times eventually, and I did think I was black for a while. But when I look back or look at my life right now, I have basically constructed a Leave It to Beaver home, except my office is 30 minutes from my house versus in my house, right? Stay-at-home wife, kids, yada yada. I work and come home and discipline and do whatever. But, like, does that make me bad, Alan?
I don't know. Hugh Beaumont seemed to be a complicated figure. You could choose the positive aspect of being a patriarch. It's just this movie doesn't.
Oh, I'm not saying I'm in charge.
Okay. So in that case,
I'm not saying that.
There's a difference there.
Jackie, my wife, did hate this movie, by the way.
Good.
Yes, she's much smarter than
Why?
me, so it's dumb. It's dumb.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah.
But I love it.
Okay. Well, wait. I totally forgot. So we're doing Nick Cage. Obviously, this is a Nick Cage movie. Was Nick Cage good in this? Like, we kind of tiptoed around it, but was he good in this?
No.
He was good, but not good enough.
Although I guess it's ironic because he's the only reason anybody talks about this movie. I mean, it got totally ignored other than the not the bees virality of that moment. And without that, I mean, Would we have rented this movie for $5 without not the bees? Certainly not.
Yeah.
Yeah, without Nick Cage, this surely wouldn't have been on the list of movies with Nick Cage.
Well, to be fair, actually, I might have recommended it still because it still would have been terrible with a different lead actor, and actually probably would have been much worse. Actually,
I would think
so. I don't know.
Well,
I am up in the air.
Nick Cage adds the absurdity of things,
Which is why I think it's a comedy.
Yeah.
But anyway, it did have some Shutter Island, Shutter Island vibes to it as well, which was a movie obviously came after. So I think this movie inspired Shutter Island, and that's a testament to how good this movie is as well. It's spawned.
Stop.
It's spread its legs and spawned
Stop.
great cinema
Stop.
from its loins.
No.
So speaking of spawning things from our loins, what are we doing next?
Don't ask me. This was my dumb idea, so somebody else gets.
It's Clink's turn because I did Peggy's.
My turn. Hold on. I know the name of I don't know the name of the movie, but I know the movie.
Oh my God, we have to Google this. Here, let me guess, Clink. Is Googling or no? Shitty Nick Cage movies.
I already got one.
You mock, and yet you know his modus operandi.
Yes.
Hold on. It's what is it called? Willy's Wonderland.
What?
Willy's Wonderland. You know what I'm talking about, Alan.
Wonderland.
Don't.
Yeah, this is great.
Don't.
This is great. This is fabulous.
It's
Is
a
this
different.
Is
It's
this
the
the
Five
Five
Nights at
Nights at Yeah.
It's a different Nick Cage movie, though. I'm going to say this right now. It's not going to be your normal Nick Cage movie
Okay, well, I'm excited.
for reasons.
I'm excited because Nick Cage is like a diamond by which the multifaceteds, even the imperfections, make it beautiful.
Okay, there you go.
And with that, folks, we'll come to an end.
The bees.
I was really confused when I didn't see that in the movie. I was like,
Yeah. Even I sad.
I was like, wait a second, am I so jaded that I missed that?
Yeah. So from me, Mike Vanderpool, Michael Klink, and Dr. Ellen Barris, this was Because You Watched Starcrash. We will see you next time. Say bye, folks.
Bye, folks.
Space bros before space hoes.